Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're taking on a topic that really touches every single one of us: worry. We've put together a fascinating stack of material from, well, that's really foundational work. Dale Carnegie's How to Stop Worrying and Start Living.
Yeah, in this deep dive, it isn't just about abstract theory. It's packed with incredibly practical strategies and some compelling true stories, too, of individuals who really transform their lives by confronting and conquering worry.
Right.
So our mission today is basically to extract those powerful nuggets of wisdom, those actionable insights, hopefully helping you navigate the stresses and
The whole idea of stopping worry, what immediately jumps out for you?
Oh, it's astonishing how deeply worry can permeate and damage our lives, and yet we so often underestimate its true cost. The material we reviewed, it reveals that more than half of hospital beds in one study, they were occupied by people suffering from nervous and emotional troubles.
More than half. Wow.
Yeah. And Dr. Alexis Carrel, the Nobel laureate, he famously stated that businessmen who do not know how to fight worry die young. So this isn't just about
feeling a bit stressed, It's presented as a very real physical health crisis.
That's a startling connection, isn't it? Mental anguish and physical illness. It truly is. And the stories in the or Henry Morgenthau Jr., Roosevelt's Secretary of the Treasury, he became literally dizzy with worry over a huge wheat purchase.
Yeah.
Are these just like powerful anecdotes, or does the material dig into how that mental shift actually translates to a physical cure? What's the mechanism there, according to these sources?
It seems it's more than just coincidence. The link they draw between our emotional state and physical health is profound. Dr. Russell L. Cecil, who was an authority on arthritis, he actually listed things like loneliness, worry, marital shipwreck, financial disaster
Wow.
as common conditions that can bring on arthritis.
Arthritis from worry.
That's what he suggested.
Yeah.
And another eminent doctor in the sources even called heart trouble, stomach ulcers, and diabetes first cousins. The implication being they're all essentially worry diseases.
First cousins. That's a powerful image.
It is. Carnegie recounts cases where worry apparently drove people to insanity and suicide, and even led to excruciating physical pains like angina pectoris. It's portrayed as this constant, insidious drip, drip, drip.
And that drip, drip, drip analogy, it really paints a vivid picture of how sneaky and damaging it can be. So, okay, if worry has such a devastating impact, the big question is obvious. How do we actually start to turn this around? Our sources offer some fundamental principles, right? Starting with this powerful idea, living in what they call day-tight compartments.
That's right. This concept, it actually comes from Sir William Osler, a world-famous physician. He apparently learned it from Thomas Carlyle. Osler urged Yale students to control life like a great ocean liner. Use these day-tight compartments to shut out the dead yesterdays and the uncertainties of the future.
Like bulkheads on a ship.
Exactly. His powerful mantra, which he adopted from Carlyle, was, "Our main business is not to see what lies dimly at a distance, but to do what lies clearly at hand."
So it's really about focusing all your intelligence, all your enthusiasm on doing today's work superbly, because as the material suggests, that's truly the only way you can prepare for tomorrow. It reminds us of Christ's prayer for daily bread, right? Not yesterday's stale bread, or worrying about next autumn's potential drought. And Horace, the Roman poet, wrote similar words, 30 years before Christ?
Yeah, incredible.
Happy the man, and happy he alone, he who can call today his own, he who, secure within, can say, tomorrow, do thy worst, for I have lived today. And there's that compelling story of Mrs. E.K. Shields, who was right on the brink of suicide after losing her husband, losing her job.
Terrible situation.
Just awful. And she learned to live just till bedtime, just focus on getting through the day. And she found her overwhelming fear just vanished. It sounds almost deceptively simple, but what makes this day-tide approach so powerful in practice?
I think it forces your mind into the present. Worry so often pulls us into regrets about the past or, anxieties about the future, things we can't control. By consciously confining your thoughts just to the present day, you stop your energy from being drained by things you can't change or control right now.
Right, stops the leak.
Exactly. It's a mental discipline. It prevents that diffusion of energy. And another crucial principle that kind of ties into this, directly confronting worry when it pops up, is Willis H. Carrier's magic formula.
Yes, Carrier's air conditioning guy.
That's him, the visionary founder of the industry. He used 3 steps, apparently, to conquer his own anxieties. First, he'd ask himself, what is the absolute worst that can possibly happen?
Okay, face it head on.
Right. Second, he'd prepare himself mentally to accept
That worst-case scenario, if necessary, really come to terms with it. And then finally, from that position of acceptance, he would calmly try to improve upon the worst.
That makes a lot of sense. Take this. And then there's that incredible story of Earl P. Haney, diagnosed with incurable duodenal ulcers, told to make out his will.
Pretty much a death sentence.
Right. But instead of just succumbing to despair, he somehow reconciled himself to dying at sea. He embarks on this world trip, starts enjoying highballs and strange native foods, even survives monsoons and typhoons.
He completely let go.
He did, and he returned 90 pounds heavier, completely cured, simply because he stopped worrying. It's an incredible transformation. 90 pounds heavier, cured just by changing his relationship with worry. It really makes you pause, doesn't it? It makes you think about how much control our mental state has over our physical well-being.
It absolutely does. And this transformation, it links directly to another profound idea in the book. Cooperating with the inevitable, as William James so insightfully put it. Acceptance of what has happened is the first step in overcoming the consequences of any misfortune.
Cooperating with the inevitable, that sounds like letting go of the fight against reality.
Precisely. We see this with Elizabeth Conley, who was devastated by the loss of her nephew in the war. She found peace, eventually, by accepting his death and choosing to carry on as she felt he would have wished.
Honoring him through living.
Exactly. And even Booth Tarkington, who was terrified of blindness. When it finally afflicted him, he actually found peace and a richer life afterwards. He realized, in his words, it was only miserable not to be able to endure blindness. He found freedom in acceptance, not in the absence of the problem.
Wow. Okay, so acceptance is huge. And another really big principle that seems to underlie all of this is the immense power of action, just keeping busy. The material makes it really clear. It's utterly impossible for any human mind to think of more than one thing at any given time.
Right. Basic cognitive limitation.
So the logic follows. When our minds are fully occupied, truly engaged, they literally can't be filled with worry at the same time.
Exactly. And this isn't some new discovery either. Occupational therapy, basically keeping people engaged and active, it's been used for centuries. By ancient Greek physicians, by Quakers, even by army psychiatrists who would prescribe keep them busy for soldiers suffering from psychoneurosis, or what we now call PTSD or anxiety.
Keep them busy. Simple but effective.
Yeah. Think of Henry W. Longfellow, the poet, apparently nearly driven insane by the traumatic memory of his wife's death by fire. A horrific event. He immersed himself completely in raising his children and translating Dante. He found peace through that constant absorbing activity. It was like a mental block against the grief and worry.
So the sheer act of being relentlessly busy seems to literally push worry out. It almost sounds like a form of self-prescribed occupational therapy for the mind, doesn't it? What's the ultimate takeaway from this focus on action? Is there a quote that really captures its essence?
Absolutely. And George Bernard Shaw, he really sums it up perfectly. The secret of being miserable is to have the leisure to bother about whether you are happy or not.
Ouch. Too much time to think.
Pretty much. And the book recounts this incredible story of the treasurer of Crown Fruit and Extract Company. He was buried under $500,000 of unsellable strawberries, $1 million in contracts, teetering on a nervous breakdown.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Completely. And he conquered his worry by working 15 to 16 hours a day. Just relentless work. He became so physically exhausted, he just fell asleep instantly at night. He quite literally broke the habit of worry through sheer relentless action.
Wow. Exhaustion as therapy. Okay, so with those foundational principles, day-tight compartments, the magic formula, acceptance, action, let's dive a bit deeper into mastering our internal world. The core of enduring peace, as the source powerfully argues, it really lies in our thoughts, doesn't it?
It really does.
The brilliant Emperor Marcus Aurelius shared those 8 profound words. Our life is what our thoughts make it. If you think happy thoughts, you will be happy. If you think failure, you will fail. That's a powerful declaration. But for many people, I think, simply thinking happy thoughts feels easier said than done, especially when you're facing deep-seated worries. What does the material suggest about the process of cultivating these positive thoughts? Is it like flipping a switch, or is it more of a daily practice?
Oh, it's definitely presented as a
Practice, not a switch. And Carnegie emphasizes this isn't just philosophy. It has demonstrable physiological effects,
Yeah.
real-world impact. There's a British psychiatrist,
counting your blessings.
Gratitude.
Exactly. There's a story of Harold Abbott. He was facing severe debt. His grocery store was closed. Complete despair. But he banished his worries in literally 10 seconds just by seeing a man without legs who was singing and happy.
Wow, instant perspective shift.
Totally. He had a sudden realization of how much he still had to be grateful for. His legs, his sight, his life. It's about consciously shifting your focus away from the negative.
It's a powerful perspective shift, isn't it? Really humbling. And similarly, that story of Borghild Dahl, who was practically blind for 50 years, yet she found thrilling ecstasy in the simplest things, like washing dishes and seeing brilliant colors of a miniature rainbow in soap bubbles,
Amazing detail.
or watching sparrows fly through the snow.
Yeah.
The source suggests we often live in this kind of fairyland, but we're too blind to see, too satiated to enjoy. It really challenges you, doesn't it, to open your eyes to the everyday miracles all around us.
Absolutely. And another vital internal shift the book talks about is to find yourself and be yourself. Authenticity. There's a really moving story about a Mrs. Edith Allred. She was apparently morbidly shy, even contemplating suicide because she constantly tried to fit into someone else's mold.
That pressure to conform can be crushing.
Totally. And she transformed her life after just a chance circle remark from her mother-in-law who said, no matter what happened, I always insisted on their being themselves. They just resonated so deeply with Mrs. Allred. She stopped trying to be someone else and instead started studying her own personality, her own unique strengths.
Finding power in her own nature.
Yes. And then there's Cass Daly, the singer with the large mouth and buck teeth. She was advised early on to stop hiding them. So she embraced her unique features, sang with gusto, and became a top star because of her individuality, not despite it.
That's a fantastic lesson in self-acceptance, turning what you might see as a flaw into your signature. The material quotes William James again, saying the average person uses only, 10% of their latent mental abilities?
Just 10%.
Yeah.
Imagine the untapped potential.
Right. You are uniquely you. And wasting time worrying about not being like others is presented as just a profound mistake, a real waste of your unique potential.
And when life inevitably throws you a setback, a major challenge, the advice is crystal clear. If you have a lemon, make lemonade.
Classic advice, but powerful.
It is. That's Julius Rosenwald's phrase, and it's powerfully echoed by the psychologist Alfred Adler. Adler called the power to turn a minus into a plus, one of humanity's truly wonder-filled characteristics. It's about leveraging adversity, not just enduring it.
That's a concept that really resonates. Turning a negative into a positive force. Think of Al Smith, became governor of New York, even a presidential candidate, despite never going beyond grade school.
Incredible determination.
He taught himself by studying 16 hours a day. He literally turned his lemon of ignorance into a lemonade of knowledge. And the amazing thing the book points out is that even if you don't fully succeed in turning that minus into a plus...
Right. The outcome isn't guaranteed.
Exactly. But the mere attempt replaces those negative self-defeating thoughts with positive ones. It releases creative energy, and it keeps you too busy, too focused on the positive action to just sit and mourn the past. Remember Uli Bull, the world-famous violinist? His A string snapped right in the middle of a concert.
Oh yeah, what did he do?
He just finished the melody on the remaining 3 strings. The source calls it, that is life triumphant. What an image of resilience.
Absolutely brilliant. Okay, shifting gears a bit now, let's talk about how we navigate human nature. Specifically, the often painful reality of ingratitude. The sources tell us, pretty bluntly, it's simply natural for people to forget to be grateful. It's almost the default.
Oof, that's a tough pill to swallow sometimes, isn't it?
It is, but the material emphasizes it's crucial to accept this to avoid unnecessary heartache. Think about it. Jesus healed 10 lepers, only one came back to say thank you.
Just 1 out of 10.
Charles Schwab apparently saved a bank cashier from going to jail, only for that same man to later revile him publicly. And imagine Andrew Carnegie giving a relative $1 million a fortune, only for that relative to curse him for not giving more.
Ungrateful doesn't even begin to cover it.
Right. So the message is clear. If we expect gratitude as like a payment for our generosity, we're just headed straight for a lot of heartaches.
So the solution isn't, okay, I'm never doing anything nice again.
No, not at all. It's to shift your motivation, to give for the inner joy of giving. As Aristotle so wisely put it, he said, "The ideal man takes joy in doing favors for others, but he feels ashamed to have others do favors for him." It's about the act itself.
That makes sense. Detaching from the outcome. My own Aunt Viola, she lovingly cared for both her mother and her husband's mother for years. And now she has 5 grown children who are all clamoring to share her, not out of some sense of duty or gratitude, but just out of sheer love. It's a powerful distinction.
Exactly. That's the real reward. And closely related to dealing with others is how we handle criticism, especially unjust criticism.
Ah, yes, the trolls and haters.
Pretty much. The material points out that even towering historical figures, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Admiral Peary, General Grant, they all face severe public condemnation and outright false accusations. If they couldn't escape it, how can we expect to?
It's a universal challenge then, isn't it?
Part of being human, putting yourself out there. Eleanor Roosevelt, she faced immense public criticism throughout her life, but famously never let it disturb her inner peace.
Had a thick skin, or maybe just...
And how do we cultivate that eagerness to hear where we messed up? That's hard for most people.
It is hard. It requires introspection and, frankly, humility. The book mentions Thomas Edison kept 2,500 notebooks filled with facts. He was constantly learning, testing, and even Einstein confessed he figured he was wrong 99% of the time.
Wow. If Einstein was wrong that often.
Right. If even these giants of intellect weren't perfect, why should we expect ourselves to be? The path to improvement lies in actively seeking out where you can do better. There's the story of E.H. Little, who rose to become president of Colgate-Palmolive Pete. He started as a simple soap salesman. And his strategy: he actively asked for criticism from his customers, his bosses.
He asked for it.
He did, and he gained priceless advice and loyal friends because of it. That feedback ultimately led to his immense success. So the rule here is a challenging one. Keep a record of your own mistakes, maybe privately, and then actively seek unbiased, constructive criticism. It's about growth, not protecting your ego.
Okay, so we've explored a lot about shifting our internal mindset and dealing with external relationships, criticism, ingratitude. But beyond that inner work, what about the practical, tangible steps we can take every single day? For instance, when a worry does surface, how do we actually go about analyzing it and solving it systematically?
Carnegie gives us a fantastic framework for this, actually drawing on Rudyard Kipling's famous 6 Honest Serving Men. You know the poem?
I keep 6 honest serving men.
They taught me all I knew. Their names are what and why and when and how and where and who. Use those questions to dissect the worry. Dean Herbert E. Hawks of Columbia University, who advised something like 200,000 students over his career.
Wow, that's a lot of worried students.
You bet. He insightfully said that confusion is the chief cause of worry, lack of clarity. So his approach was he refused to even try to make a decision until he had gathered all the relevant facts. He stated, "If a man will devote his time to securing facts in an impartial, objective way, his worries usually evaporate in the light of knowledge." Facts first.
Get the facts straight. Clarity extinguishes worry. Okay, so once you have those facts, what's the next critical step?
Analysis. And the material strongly recommends writing them down, putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard.
Why writing?
It forces clarity. Charles Kettering famously said, "A problem well stated is a problem half solved." Writing helps you state it well. Then, based on that analysis, you make a clear decision. And crucially, you act on it immediately.
Don't just decide, do.
Exactly. And William James offered brilliant advice here. When once a decision is reached and execution is the order of the day, dismiss absolutely all responsibility and care about the outcome. Trust the process. Frank Bedger, who became a top insurance salesman, he almost quit his career because he was paralyzed by worry.
Really? A top salesman?
Yeah, until he started this habit. Writing down his problems, identifying their causes, brainstorming possible solutions, and choosing one. He actually doubled his income by adopting this systematic approach. It's like a mental flowchart for achieving peace of mind.
A flowchart for worry. I like that. Okay, another vital area the book covers in preventing worry is preventing fatigue. They seem directly linked.
Absolutely linked. The sources emphasize that mental work alone doesn't actually tire the brain significantly. The brain, they say, is utterly tireless.
The brain is tireless. That's counterintuitive. I feel mentally exhausted all the time.
Right. But the argument is that most fatigue actually comes from our mental and emotional attitudes. Things like boredom, resentment, feeling unappreciated, anxiety itself. It's not the work itself, but how we feel about the work or the stress surrounding it. That's the drain.
So it's not the effort that exhausts us, it's the emotional friction. Okay, so what's the practical remedy for that kind of mental and emotional drain?
It's surprisingly simple yet profound. Rest often. Rest before you get tired.
Before, not after.
Before. Proactive rest.
Yeah.
Your heart, for instance, rests for a significant portion of each day between beats. It paces itself. Winston Churchill, famously, worked grueling 16-hour days during World War II.
Oh.
By resting frequently. Yes. Including, apparently, an hour nap after lunch and another 2 hours before dinner, even in the midst of the war. And Frederick Taylor, the scientific management engineer, he showed that steel workers could carry 4 times as much pig iron
4 times.
if they rested for 34 minutes out of every hour, so only working 26 minutes. It's about strategic recovery, not brute force endurance. The book claims you can literally add 1 hour a day to your waking life by adopting this principle of resting before exhaustion hits.
Preemptive resting. I need to try that. Okay, and what about those jobs or tasks that are just dull, boring? The ones that seem designed to induce fatigue and worry just from the sheer monotony.
Yeah, we all have those. The material offers a surprising antidote here, too. Actively work at making dull work interesting. Engage your mind deliberately.
How do you do that?
It's about finding an angle, a challenge, a way to learn. Harlan A. Howard, as a high school kid washing dishes in a drugstore, boring job, right? He started studying the chemistry of ice cream just to make the work more engaging for himself.
Chemistry of ice cream. Okay.
Yeah, and this little act of curiosity led him to major in food technology in college, win a prize, and eventually open his own successful lab counting bacteria for milk companies, all for making dishwashing interesting.
That's amazing. A small shift led to a whole career.
It did. Or Samuel Vauclain, who was bored working at a lathe in a factory, he made a game of racing his coworker, trying to produce more, faster. This drive led to promotions, again and again, until he became president of Baldwin Locomotive Works.
Just from making a game out of it.
And H.V. Coltonborn, the famous news analyst.
Yeah.
Early in his career, he sold stereopticon machines door-to-door in Paris without speaking a word of French.
How on earth did he manage that?
He memorized his sales pitch in French. When people asked questions, he'd just point to the relevant phrase written inside his hat. And crucially, he gave himself a daily pep talk to convince himself to have a good time doing it. He actively manufactured enthusiasm. He's using William James's as-if philosophy. Act as if you were interested in your job, and that bit of acting will tend to make your interest real.
Fake it till you make it, but for generating genuine interest. That's a fantastic insight. Okay, finally, let's touch on a common thread for so many of us. Financial worries. This is cited as a huge source of anxiety, right? One survey suggested 70% of worries revolve around money.
That's a massive percentage. And the sources emphasize something interesting. Simply having more money isn't usually the magic bullet. Apparently, most people don't actually know how to manage or spend what they already have wisely.
So it's not about the amount, it's about the management.
Exactly. The key, as the material suggests, is to treat your personal finances like a business. Seriously. Get a budget, but one that fits your specific needs, not some generic template. Learn to spend wisely to get the best value for your money. And crucially, try not to let your headaches grow along with your income. Avoid lifestyle inflation eating up every raise.
Right, the more money, more problems trap.
Precisely. There's a cautionary tale in the book about the 5,000-year trapped people hitting a financial goal they thought would solve everything, only to immediately overspend and find themselves in the same, or even worse, bind. It also gives very practical advice on things like building good credit, knowing where to borrow money if you must, banks first, not predatory lenders, and protecting yourself with essential insurance against major disasters like illness or fire. It's about structure, foresight, and control.
So it's less about the raw number in your bank account and much more about your relationship with money, your habits around it. And if you're feeling stuck, maybe facing a serious financial challenge, the material reminds us of these incredible individuals, like Nellie Spear. She started baking 5,000 pies a year from her tiny home kitchen with basically no overhead, just started. Or Ora Snyder, who started selling homemade candy to local kids for just a penny a piece right from her kitchen stove.
Small beginnings, big impact.
Exactly. They transformed their financial situations and, importantly, found a new zest into living by being proactive, creative, and taking control where they could.
Okay, so beyond these very practical steps for managing daily life, finances, thoughts, our sources delve into something deeper, these deeper well springs of peace, namely the profound role of faith and the transformative power of finding a purpose that's bigger than yourself.
Right, moving beyond the self.
William James, him again, he called religious faith the sovereign cure for worry. Strong words. And the book includes stories of many individuals like Mary Cushman, who was apparently contemplating suicide. She found solace and a renewed will to live by turning to prayer and developing a belief in God.
So a spiritual connection as an anchor.
It seems so for many. Even Dr. Carl Jung, the famous psychiatrist, noted that about 1/3 of his patients suffered not primarily from neuroses, but from the senselessness and emptiness of their lives, a lack of meaning. It plays to a deeper human need, perhaps.
It certainly does. That story of Admiral Byrd, alone in that Antarctic shack, slowly being poisoned by carbon monoxide fumes, it's incredibly powerful. He found the strength to fight, to survive, by realizing or believing he was not alone in the universe. He turned to God in his absolute darkest hour.
A profound experience.
And Glenn A. Arnold, the insurance broker who hit financial rock bottom, even considered suicide. He found lasting peace and confidence, the story says, once he learned to rely on God. So what is it about prayer, though? Even for people who might be skeptical, what does the material suggest offers such profound psychological relief?
That's a great question. The material suggests that prayer, regardless of one's specific beliefs or lack thereof, actually fulfills 3 basic psychological needs. First, it helps us articulate our troubles, just verbalize them, give them form, which is helpful in itself.
Getting it out.
Right. Second, it's therapeutically good to tell someone your troubles, even if that someone is perceived as God or the universe.
Yeah.
It lessens the burden. And third, it's often a first step towards constructive action. Just the act of formulating the problem in prayer can lead to thinking about solutions. One scientist quoted in the source even called prayer the most powerful form of energy one can generate. It channels emotion into focus and potentially action.
Interesting perspective. Okay, and finally, a capstone principle, maybe. One that seems to unite many of these ideas. Forget yourself by becoming interested in others. This is perhaps presented as the ultimate antidote to worry and melancholia.
It really seems to be positioned that way. Alfred Adler, the psychologist, strongly urged people to do a good deed every single day. And he defined a good deed simply as one that brings a smile of joy to the face of another.
Simple yet powerful.
Very. Because doing so fundamentally stops us from thinking about ourselves. Just for a moment. And self-absorption is identified as the very root of most worry and fear. Mrs. William T. Moon, mentioned in the book, apparently cured her deep melancholy in a single day simply by focusing all her energy on bringing happiness to 2 orphans.
Wow. A one-day cure through service.
And Margaret Taylor Yates, who was an invalid with a bad heart condition. She reportedly regained her health by getting out of bed after the Pearl Harbor attack to comfort the distraught wives and widows of sailors. By focusing completely on others' grief, she said she no longer had time to think about myself or care about myself. It was an outward focus that brought inner peace and even physical improvement.
That's a beautiful paradox, isn't it? To find peace for yourself, you give comfort to others. And then there's that truly extraordinary story of Lawrence Jones, the black teacher and preacher in Mississippi who was about to be lynched by an angry mob.
Terrifying situation.
Unimaginable, and yet he spoke with such sincerity, such passion about his cause, educating impoverished black children that the mob actually softened. An old Confederate veteran in the crowd even passed a hat around, raising money for Jones's school right there on the spot.
Incredible turn of events.
Jones later said he was simply too busy with his cause to hate. He declared, "No man can force me to stoop low enough to hate him." That just, it speaks volumes
about finding that purpose.
That mission, something bigger and nobler than oneself. This is exemplified perfectly by Dr. Frank Loop. He was an invalid for 23 years with severe arthritis, largely bedridden.
So wrapping this all up, you've heard about the significant, often hidden cost of worry. And then we've explored these powerful strategies drawn from really timeless wisdom and incredibly compelling real-life stories. From Sir William Osler's day-tight compartments to Willis Carrier's practical magic formula. From the crucial mindset shift of making lemonade out of life's lemons to the profound power found in genuinely helping others. The path to a more worry-free life, it really does seem within your reach based on this material.
The challenge now, though, for you listening, is to internalize these ideas, to actually use them. What is one small action, just one thing you can take today based on what we discussed? Something to shift your mindset, maybe manage your time differently, or just engage with the world around you in a new, more deliberate way.
Perhaps it's as simple as writing down one specific worry and honestly asking yourself, okay, really, what's the absolute worst that could happen here? And then accepting it. Or maybe it's finding a way to make that dull task you've been dreading just a little more interesting by approaching it with fresh curiosity, like it's a puzzle. What would it truly mean for your life right now to consciously make yourself too busy, too engaged, too focused on the present, to worry?
And as our source concludes with a really powerful distinction, something to chew on. The most important thing in life is not to capitalize on your gains. Any fool can do that. The really important thing is to profit from your losses. That requires intelligence, and it makes the difference between a man of sense and a fool. It's about what you learn, how you grow from the hard times.
A lot to think about there. Until next time, keep diving deep into the knowledge that has the power to transform your life.